RealWorks and its latest version, which is version 10. And I also want to go through the Trimble TX8 scanner with you. In the data you'll see today, some of it's been collected by the TX8, which is shown on the right, and the Trimble TX5, which is shown on the left. You'll notice some accuracy differences, and I'll try to take time to maybe talk about that for a quick minute. But if you do have questions, you can post them in the chat box, or at the end we'll open it up for a Q&A session. I'm joined here this morning with Brandon Elia. He's our geospatial sales rep for the Illinois area and also handles scanning. So he'll be popping in and out today, interjecting with some ideas and thoughts that maybe I skim over, or he has that maybe feel important to be mentioned.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Brandon. Yeah, so we're going to talk about the RealWorks 10, TX8, and a Q&A session at the end. We're going to try to keep it under an hour so everybody can get back to their busy day. Again, thank you for taking time. We know that it's a busy time of year. We aren't going to go over RealWorks in depth as far as the total software. We're going to focus on the changes. Given the list of attendees, majority of you are already working with RealWorks software. If you do want more in-depth training, you can either contact Precision Midwest, Brandon, or myself for a one-on-one session or group session, or else you can attend one of our conferences. We do have one coming up in Des Moines at the Ziegler Building, November 19th and 20th, where I'll be giving a class on RealWorks. So a good opportunity to get some training and one-on-one with either issues that you're having with current, changes, more efficiency, anything you need. So by all means, at the end, do ask plenty of questions. I really do like it when people ask questions, because it gives me a chance to share some knowledge, and it helps you get better at what you do. So everybody's familiar with the current workflow. You capture data, process data, and then you create deliverables from that. This is just a quick slide showing that. So real quick, I do want to go over the Trimble TX8 scanner. I don't believe many of you have had a chance to view this scanner or see the results that it can produce. But after spending time working with this, I am thoroughly impressed with its capabilities. The TX8 uses what's called Trimble Lightning technology, which is a long-range time-of-flight scanner with 1 million points per second. So it's very impressive, very high-end, accurate, and its ease of use is pretty ridiculous. You could send just about anybody into the field with this scanner and feel confident they're going to come back with the results that you need. Pairing that with Trimble RealWorks, if something were missing or not quite adjusted to your needs, RealWorks software is powerful enough where there's not many instances where you can't make scans fit. Through all the different tools that are there, there's many automated features, but the ability to manually move and adjust your scans to make them fit in a scenario is pretty unprecedented. So I don't know of any other software that is as flexible for helping you get your scans aligned and accurate. So like I said, it is 1 million points per second. The scan time, it says here, is typically 3 minutes. I would say that's a little low. There is a 3-second. If you're doing outdoor scans, it's going to be more like 10 minutes. If you're doing indoor scans, yeah, I definitely agree with this. 3 minutes is correct. You set it up and go. The consistent accuracy is 2 millimeters. However, where there is a dual pass and a 4-pass option, which will get you down to a single millimeter. The data that you're going to see here live on RealWorks is just a standard 2 millimeter scan. So it's already very, very accurate. And the data of which it collects is extremely fast. So the standard range is 120 meters. There is an extended range which goes all the way out to 340 meters. And it gets all of that. When it says it's going 120 meters in the standard mode, you're going to see that throughout the duration of the scan. So again, I can't really stress how good this scanner has been for us. So If you haven't had a chance to look at it and are curious, get a hold of us and we can come out and give a demo for you. There's 4 different settings here, and actually there's a few more now with the latest firmware release. You've got the 1, 2, 3 and extended range, shows the time, but then you've also got the extended accuracy you can expect. So single, double, and 4-pass option. With that 4-pass, you're going to see an increase in time, which isn't quite equal to 3 times 4 if you're doing the level 2. It's going to be less than that, but and also you'll want to frame in an area specific, so you're not going to do a full 360 scan with a 4-pass. We'll frame in an area smaller, say a building or a bridge or something like that, so you don't spend as much time over scanning, so you can move on quicker. This is an example of a phase-based scan versus the time of flight scan, and it's important to know that it is 1,000,000 points per second on scanning, because that's typically been used for phase shift or phase-based scanners. So it's pretty unprecedented that you've got a time of flight 1,000,000 point per second scanner that's going to produce the type of accuracy over the complete duration of the scan. You'll see it with the typical scanner. The lower percent of reflectivity, the more chance you're going to get of deviation. So I do have an example of that when I create a target, where you'll see the TX5 scanner on a very black surface, and when I zoom into that, you'll notice how it's not quite as accurate to when it's on a black and white target. The white picks up really well, however, the black gets some interference. So you'll see that in a later RealWorks demonstration. This is a quick example of the TX8 on the bottom right, shown scanning a rock face and the type of accuracy it delivers over the 120-meter range. So again, it's a wonderful piece of equipment. It's ruggedized. It's produced by Trimble. So we've gone through a period where we were working with third-party companies to produce our scanners while we had this in development. And it is built in Sweden with our S-Series group, so you can expect that same kind of durability, which I'm very happy about. Some of the level of detail you can see here on a particular scan. So again, if you get a chance to look at this, please let us know. The battery functionality for this, you're going to get 4 batteries with the unit, and it runs for about 2 hours of continuous operation. In my field testing, this is true. So you're going to get quite a bit of battery life from each battery that you have, and it works very, very well. It is protected, so if you've ever worked with another type of scanner where you have to work in a dusty environment or any type of environment where you're going to have unhospitable conditions, this is going to get you through that day and get you out quickly. So with that, that's the Trimble TX8. I just wanted to spend a quick few minutes talking about that. Brandon, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you've covered quite well. The things that I really like to emphasize on with the TX8 is if anybody's familiar with the Faro and the TX5, dust and environmental, rain, moisture in the air is very damaging to the exposed mirror on those scanners, where the TX8 is much more rugged, enclosed, and you're able to go into a lot of environments that you weren't able to go to before. So.
Okay. So first off, now we're done with the TX8 presentation. I'm going to get into the changes within RealWorks. A couple of housekeeping items regarding RealWorks. For one, the current version of RealWorks is not just 10.0. They've had a couple releases for fixing bugs and a couple other increased productivity options pertaining to the Tank Edition. So the current version is actually 10.0.2.414. So that just came out here within the last month or so. So if you already are running 10 and you haven't updated it, please go out to the Trimble website, to the RealWorks page, and go to downloads and get the latest version, and go ahead and implement that. The system requirements, I did have that printed out here. You're going to want a 256 gig drive. Trimble recommends solid state drive. Trimble recommends at least 16 gig of RAM. You're going to want at least a 1 gig dedicated graphics card. However, Trimble recommends a 3 gig dedicated graphics card. So with all those things in mind, if you have a major CAD machine already in place, it should work just fine. However, if you're currently looking for a CPU or computer, kind of keep those functionalities in mind when you're shopping. If you either have RealWorks already or you're currently looking at it, a lot of those features are pretty standard in computers, high-end computers that are available now. So it's nothing too outrageous, in my opinion. With Trimble RealWorks, go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that all those specs that you just mentioned are in the Trimble RealWorks release notes that are in the handouts.
Yes. Yep. So a good place to reference if you are looking for a new computer. So with RealWorks, with version 10, they've changed quite a bit. They've given us a new ribbon layout here that you see versus the old style of the small icons. It takes a little bit to get used to if you spend a lot of time with RealWorks. However, the more time I spend with it, the layout is very nice and easy to use. If you do, during your transitional period of switching out, moving from 9 to 10, you still can go back to the old ribbon if you can't find some of the icons or tools that you're looking for, and you'll find that under support and ribbon toolbar, and that'll allow you to switch back and forth. So during that transition and getting used to the new software, just know that you can refer back to the previous layout. They have changed a few things. One is they've removed, it used to be registration, office survey, and modeling, and then tank if you had the tank edition. Now it's just going to be registration and production between the two modules. Oops, I want to go back to the production here. The reason for the bar layout is that it creates bigger icons, and it also is able to kind of group the features together in a more visible way instead of kind of burying them under the smaller menu tabs I used to have. So they've also added here a new classification layer. So this is considered a window, much like your workspace window, your list window. Now you have a classification layer window, and this pertains to during import or export of certain types of third-party file formats. That would be your .pod for Bentley, LAS or LAZ files for common exchange file formats or compact exchange file formats. They support a classification so that when you segment certain parts of your 3D laser scan, it's going to maintain those classifications for easy data management. These classification layers on the bottom, you can either create your own custom classifications, or they've also got predefined classifications here. Depending on the type of project, you can scroll through here. For instance, this little site, this is just a blurb of a scan as an example for the ground extraction tool. But you've got, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the ground for classification as an option. You've got all sorts of different layer options, and this is going to be helpful, like I said, LAS, LAZ, or POD file exchange, and also when you import those types of files, it's going to be recognized if you've already spent time segmenting out certain point clouds and actually geometries as well. So it'll maintain those classifications. So I'll go ahead and maintain this ground classification turned on. And one of the new features I want to show you is the ground extraction feature. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this bar. And I've got my point cloud here highlighted and turned on. and I'll go to my Surfaces tab. And inside the Surfaces tab, it should almost make this icon bigger, but it's buried in here. You've got your Mesh Creation tool. You select that, and it opens up your wizard to create a mesh of a surface or whatever it is that you want to create a mesh of. And on the top here, you've got on every wizard you're going to have basically the 3 most used options in every laser scan. So it's going to be your segmentation tool, your sampling tool, and then your reload tool. We haven't taken anything else. The reload is grayed out. In this case, we're going to go ahead and just quickly segment out a certain area, and I'm just going to real roughly do that. So I can show you that there's quite a bit of vegetation still visible. So you've got your trees, you've got people walking by here, you've got, I guess people are right there, some brush and whatnot. But this is a common scenario just about everywhere. If you're in a city, you've got cars passing by, you've got people, you've got trees, grasses, all those things, and you used to have to spend quite a bit of time or know the correct tools to really get down to bare ground. It wasn't real obvious. They've changed that here with the latest sampling tool, and that's the ground extraction tool. So now that I've segmented out an area real quick, I'm going to go ahead and open the segmentation tool just to the right of the sampling tool, I'm sorry, to the right of the segmentation tool. And you've got all your different options that you've had in the past, but you've also got this ground extraction tool now at the bottom. When you used to use I used to use the discontinuity-based sampling, which is a pretty heavy term and not real easy for people to find. I didn't feel. You can achieve that same amount of extraction, however, it's just not real simple. This makes it very simple. So you just select extract, it shows the outliers in red, so it'll show us the trees, it'll show us the brush, all in red once it gets finished processing. And I am running a lot of programs right now, so it's going to be a little bit slower. So it automatically follows the contour there, and you can see how it highlights everything ready to get rid of the unwanted points. So you can either keep the ground or remove the ground. So it gives you 2 options. We're going to keep the ground here, and it's going to reduce it from 10 million points down to 8 million. However, I'm not real satisfied with this, so I'm going to go through and also do a spatial sampling. Oh, that's fine. We'll leave it at 0.2 feet. That's still going to be a lot for a surface. But you'll see it's going to reduce your point number by a substantial amount here. So yeah, it goes from almost 8 million points down to 58,000, which is still a lot for a triangulated surface. And so you could space that out more if you wanted to, but you'll see it cleans it up very nicely. So we're going to go ahead and apply those changes. And then quickly prepare our mesh. Oh, we'll see here, I did that incorrectly. I did a screen-based view. So I'll do that again, but I'm going to get back on top of the surface here. Go. Quick and easy. If you wanted to refine this, you could create and close the tool, and then go into your mesh editing tool and further refine your surface. So I just wanted to show you that new segmentation tool option. Brandon, do you have anything to throw in?
No, I think that that shows a lot of the power of the program, how easy it is for this one-click functions.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, and then I'll open up another file.
I would like to say one thing about that ground extraction tool. That doesn't have to be just applied for just ground surfaces. It can be applied to if you were, say, doing a scan of a roadway or a parking lot, and you have people that are walking by and a bunch of cars in the parking lot. That same tool will automatically take out all of the people, the cars, the light poles, and it'll find the contour of the parking lot and the curb and keep that and throw everything else out. So it doesn't have to be just applied to ground surfaces.
Right. So the other, thanks Brandon, the other tool I want to talk about, which is new to Trimble RealWorks 10, is something that I have been asking for a while, and I don't know if this is the case, but I quickly drew out a sketch during Dimensions and gave that to one of the product managers. And it looks pretty similar to what I drew out, so I don't know if they're already working on a station setup routine for registration, but they put it in here, and I think it's very, very helpful. One of the functions of, say, any of our scanners is, or lack of functions, is a standard survey setup. Well, that doesn't really matter anymore because you can go out, you're not concerned about going through a survey setup routine. You just want to get your scans done and be able to use that routine once you get back to the office. You want to get in and out of the field as fast as possible. So what they've done is you can go out now, do a standard setup using your scanner, and bring it back into the office, or do a resection with 2 or more points and complete that setup. So I want to give you a quick example of how that new tool works. So what I'm going to do now is select the Registration tab. And at the bottom here in my list view, I'm going to highlight single scan. And you've got a survey workflow on the right-hand side. You select this and go to Station Setup. It's going to open up a wizard here, which walks you through step-by-step how to do a setup or resection. The first step is to define the station that you want to set up. Once you perform a single station setup, you can make your way through other stations and also perform their setups so that they align for the total project. In this example, I've only got one scan that I'm going to show. And a couple things you ignore. 1, ignore the residuals. 2, ignore the geometry used to perform this resection. I know they're both not good, but I didn't have a good data set to show this. So we're going to use a single scan. We're going to change this from a station setup to a resection. We can assign an instrument height here if we know that. You'll want to measure that up if you are in the field and you plan on going through this workflow. The other option, step 3, is to extract targets. I wanted to show the extract process because of another change that they've made, which is much needed, and I'm very happy to see it. So we're going to create a black and white flat target. I'm going to zoom into an area where I know a target is. And this is where I was talking about, where you can see the outliers based on the accuracy of dark surfaces and odd angles and things like that you won't see with the Trimble TX8. So I'm going to quickly frame in this area. It's going to go through and create a target for me. Can't tell if I'm coming or going here. well, maybe this one doesn't show it as well. The other target did. But you can see how the black is raised a bit. We're not real concerned with accuracy. I'm just going to show you how to go through this tool. So I'm going to quickly create this. And this is the new option. So you've got a create target option or name it, which in the past it did an auto naming routine, and then you'd have to manually go in and change those names. This is very helpful for if you are doing a standard setup, so that you can have the same target name as the imported file that you create. So in this case, I want to do, I believe, 102. Yeah, 102. This is set flat on the ground over the control point, so it's still a 0 height. If it was a sphere, you'd want to calc in the middle, or add the middle of the sphere down to the ground. But in this case, it's just 0. So go ahead and create that. New point created. You can tell it's pretty inaccurate. Go ahead and close this. So we've done step 3 of the measure target, and now I want to define backsites. So it asks you which scan point you want to use. We'll start with 31 GPS. You can enter in a backsite height here for your point, and then either go to a list, which we have imported a text file as a survey control network, and I'll select 31 GPS, say OK. It's going to compute the residual error. Again, this has got some error to it. And then I'm going to change to point 102. I'll go to my list, select point 102, say OK. It goes through and calculates the points, the residuals. If you do create a point here and you want to disassociate it, you think that it's blowing your resection or blowing your setup somehow, you can highlight that, and then you've got these two little, I don't know what this icon is, it looks like 2 rockets or something shooting the opposite direction, but it separates them, so it disassociates the 2 points. So once you've got that assigned, you're ready to complete your station setup and move on. So yeah, that's a very cool, huge improvement, I feel. This is going to be very helpful in busy intersections where maybe you can't get targets set out in all directions, narrow corridors where you've got to just overall busy areas. I think it'd be a great routine, or you just don't have the pieces of equipment available or enough spheres visible to create a station setup. I don't know, Brandon, if you can think of any other scenarios where this new routine will be helpful, but I think it's a great addition.
I think it's a good addition too. I was thinking of ways that this would help crews out in the field, and one way I can think of is in order to get now, the typical way to make it work now is in order to get your scans on a coordinate system is you'd have to have a crew come out, set targets, and then direct reflex, coordinates onto all the targets, and then come and scan everything. Where here, one crew can come out and scan everything and establish coordinates at the same time without having to make 2 trips.
Yep. Yep, I agree. So, does anybody have any questions so far on this? I know before I move on to the next tool, I just want to see if anybody has any questions on what we've talked about so far. Okay. Now I'm going to open up a project which I scanned the Polk County Courthouse here in Des Moines using the TX8. So I want to show a couple things. One, on the accuracy of the TX8. And 2, I want to go through the Scan Explorer tool, some of the changes which have been made to that, which may be helpful for users. So you can see actually the time that it took to scan this. That's pretty nice. But this is the TX8. The scans distances, they were probably a few hundred feet away. It picked up a lot of additional information as well. on some of the extended scans, some of the neighboring buildings several blocks away. You can see some of the detail here on the statues up. And I'm going to actually change my rendering here. There you go. So you can highlight the eagle there up on the corner. But I can't tell you how impressed I was with this. It's just easy to use and very, very accurate. Extremely clean data set. So this isn't, I didn't come through and edit this data. There wasn't a whole lot of noise to it. There wasn't really any. There's a few spots out here. I imagine that was probably just from birds, but I did not go through and do a high accuracy as far as 1 millimeter 4-pass scan. This is the standard measurement, not extended range. So we could have gotten a lot further. But man, it's good data. So this is an example of the TX8. There we go. I'm going to turn these two off. The main thing I wanted to show you here was the changes to the Scan Explorer tool. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the Scan Explorer tool, it utilizes Trimble's TZF file format. That file format is a 2.5D file, so it's projected as a flat plane, a picture. However, it's got three-dimensional data to it. It's pretty wordy. The main thing behind that is basically anybody can come in and start using a TZF file in this scenario and look at it like a normal picture and start to take measurements or extract data. It's just a much easier interface to view and review data, take measurements, communicate with clients. So the TZF file format does a couple things for us. One, it maintains a small data set by compacting the files, and then it also allows for us to view this data such as in this way. This is a good enough view here. One of the things that we're allowed to do now is switch our view. It used to be just grayscaled intensity and true color. Now we can also do highlight on measured points. So if we zoom back, we'll see gaps in the data where maybe it didn't pick up anything. And then you've also got an option here for color-coded intensity. So this would be probably good in low light situations or piping, industrial areas where there's not a whole lot of difference and the objects being measured. It'll bring out a lot of that detail. So yeah, these are the two new options for viewing data. As well, we've still got grayscaled and true color. Now, imagery, it is good for taking measurements if you've got color behind it. However, when you're looking and measuring points in a scenario like this, if you're around a corridor or a busy sidewalk or something where you've got a lot of an active job site, your scan happens first and your pictures are taken. That means that cars are moving, means that people are walking by, means somebody could move a piece of equipment in front of you. And so when you're looking at an image and you're going to take a measurement and you're taking that as gospel or whatever, you might not actually be measuring that three-dimensional point because something could have gotten in the way during that. So if I'm taking measurements this way, I want to be sure that I am indeed seeing the true points. You're not going to see that with true color, so switch back and forth between these just to verify that prior to sending off data. Brandon, did you have anything you wanted to talk about specific inside Scan Explorer?
Well, there's so many tools inside Scan Explorer, it's hard to fit it all in this one session. one tool that I do that's one of my favorites is the polyline tool. One of the biggest questions I get from a lot of people is how can you extract line data from a three-dimensional scan? I feel that the Scan Explorer has made that pretty easy to do. I don't know if you wanted to show that.
Sure. So we've got a So this is the 3D polyline drawing tool here. And this is not a picture, this is the actual 3D point cloud. So you can see it's in yellow here, but it did draw that line. And then you can create that within RealWorks. And there you go. So that is a very handy tool. They've also got an automatic extraction of lines. This is a pretty busy doorway. But if we select this extract wall edges, and I'll just do a rectangular selection here. We'll just go right through here. It's going to look for edges in this particular area and then create the 3D polyline. So you can see what it created out of all of that. That's pretty impressive. And that took all of a few seconds. Then these points can be selected. And then exported to any software you want for refining, or you can go through in the polyline editing tool and connect these points. But if you haven't used this feature, this was actually created in version 9, but maybe it's something you haven't had a chance to use yet under the Extract Features tool. Another very cool option in here is the point creation and the corner detection. So anybody who's been out in the field surveying knows that establishing a true corner can be pretty difficult. If you really want to get that inside or outside corner, this will actually go through and calculate that point based on its surrounding point cloud data. So it'll create 3 surfaces and just trying to find an inside or outside corner here. Well, I guess there's no background data there to compare it to, but it created an object based on that. The other option here is the extract slices. There's a plane. Well, in any of these plane situations, you've got a horizontal cutting plane, a vertical cutting plane, and a 3-point plane definition. One of the newer features is instead of just spatial sampling, where you say I want a point every half a foot on this wall because it's just a wall, you've got a spatial sampling and keep details. Keep details is very important because if you've got corners, if you've got wall edges, you don't care about that data that creates a flat plane. What you do care about is where that data changes. So I don't want to go through and actually create these, but I'll show you an example of 2 different planes that were created using just the spatial sampling and the spatial sampling keep details. So if I just do the 2-foot or 2/10 spatial sampling on a facade of the building, you'll see it kept all that data, but there's no real, can't really tell much about it. Now if I show you what I created using the keep details, you can see it maintained that 2/10, but then in those areas where the line work changed or the facade changed, it kept those details. So this is another example of how RealWorks allows you to get accurate work done without blowing up your file and making you create too much data. Because obviously storage is expensive after you get to a certain point. That is basically the changes that I wanted to talk about today. So now I'd like to, unless Brandon, you have something else you want to add, I'll open this up to any questions or comments to the group. Or you can type in the chat bar as well. Brandon, do you have anything?
No, I mean, there's, like I said, RealWorks is such a great, powerful program. It's really tough to display everything in
yeah, and that's
in 1 hour's time.
Note, this is just meant to highlight the changes. This is not a complete RealWorks tutorial or anything like that.